Welcome back here to X's and Bros, Michigan Sports Network. Danny Cahill, Ryan Elke, Anthony Bellino, all crying to you. We appreciate you for listening to us, and it's time now to welcome in somebody who's going to talk me off of the ledge. I don't know. I don't know if he's going to talk me off the ledge yet. His name is Bryce Simon. He's a regular on this program. Find him on Twitter at Motor City Hoops. Find him and his partner, Omari Sankofa, with the Pistons Pulse podcast. Bryce, it's great to have you with us. Shout out to Omari Sankofa. It's a tough day for all of our friends, James Edwards, Mike Curtis, Rod Beard, you, me, Jack Kelly, anybody who covers the Detroit Pistons. Today is a day of mourning, I guess. The Pistons lose on the Wemby sweepstakes. Have you processed this yet?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm an internal optimist, I think, in the Pistons community, right? Like, I think if you went around, people would say I'm kind of the more, I don't want to say level-headed, but I don't have quite the same emotional investment because I've only been a fan for a few years. Like, people were texting and tweeting yesterday about, like, throwing up because they're so nervous about it. I'm like, I'm just chilling, going about my day. I mean, I am a big fan, but I haven't lived it my whole life. Losing out on Wemby was huge. Like, that I would say more like that would have been such a game changer, Anthony, because he is truly generational, and that word gets thrown around a lot. Wemby was that. Some of these other guys aren't that, but Wemby is. I just don't think I had prepared myself that they might actually fall all the way to 5. I was prepared for them not to get 1. I was prepared for the Scoot Henderson versus Brandon Miller debate for the next month. And we don't even get to have fun doing that because those guys will be off the board at 5 as well.
Sad. I was all in on the Pistons are going to get the number 1 pick. And a lot of people don't understand the odds. So you have a 14% chance, the worst team in the league, with the bottom 3 teams. They all have the same odds as far as getting the number 1 pick. But your odds are higher to get the number 5 pick because you don't have any chance at getting anything worse than 5. So hypothetically, it does make sense. I want to first ask you about the system that is the NBA lottery. Like, I think the show is complete garbage. My idea for this program is to put the lottery machine out in front of the public and draw 14 all the way down to 1. Do it lottery style. Like, let's see the ball get sucked up into the tube like we're watching the nightly news at 6 o'clock or whatever, playing the big 3 or whatever they call it, wherever the hell you live at, and just go that route. Like, let's do this on live television. I want to see somebody stand out there with some cards, somebody delivering some cards from Ernst & Young. I don't care about them. You think we trust anybody in the finance industry right now? You're out of your mind. It's 2023, for God's sakes. Put it on TV and let me see the ping pong balls, damn it. That's what I want, Bryce. But they don't do that.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm excited to talk to Omari here in just a little bit because he was there last night and they made him like take he had to put his phone away, his computer away, all that. He was in the room. I don't know what all he got to see, what all he got to experience, but I know it was something that like not everybody gets to. And again, he wasn't allowed to bring any technology with him. So we're going to have an episode coming out today at noon, and I'm excited to hear because I haven't talked to him yet to find out what all like went into that. But I didn't even watch it, to be honest with you. I was on a live stream on the DBB YouTube, and I just let somebody that was watching it kind of rattle off the results. But yeah, there has to be a more dramatic way. Like, as much as this is an entertainment industry, that's how you're going to do it. How can we not have more drama with it than just, like you say, just opening up a card? That's dorky to me. In some ways, I feel like I've cheated the game because I didn't experience all of this growing up. So I don't have some of the same like scars from fandom. And so it's hard to completely understand all of that. I am a Pistons fan. I cover the team. I talk about them more than I talk about anything, but I'm not a lifer. So it is a little bit different for me. I will say this, Anthony. And again, this is where like the internal optimist comes out. Cade Cunningham is really, really good, Anthony. Cade Cunningham can be the face of your franchise. Jaden Ivey had a really good rookie season. He's not a face of the franchise, but he could be a number 2. Jalen Duren is really good with a really high ceiling, and we can get into it if you want. I'm sure we will a little bit. There are some potential really good players at number 5. So, no, it is a disappointment that they didn't get number 1. It's a disappointment they didn't get number 2 or number 3. The room for error shrunk a lot by not landing Wemby or Scoot or probably even Brandon Miller. But there is still a path and a course for this team turning it around and being good, the room for error just got a whole lot smaller.
And, I don't hate the makeup of the Pistons roster either. It was like the minute Cade went down, everybody was in on, okay, there's this French guy, right? And look,
Yep.
every one of Wemby's highlights, you think the guy shoots 100% from three. He doesn't. He shoots less than 30% from three. But you'd never know that watching the highlights. But he is the guy. I don't get in on the generational thing, but because LeBron's kid and Wemby are roughly the same age, I guess this is Wemby's generation. As long as he's healthy, he's that guy. Like he is, He's a freak of nature. Like everybody knows it. There's nothing we can really say about it, and we're out on that. There's no way the Spurs pass on him. They're going to take him. It is what it is. You mentioned Brandon Miller. He'll be gone. Scoot Henderson will be gone. The Thompson brothers will be there. Cam Whitmore will more than likely be there. So who is? Let's go straight to number 5. We'll skip all that other nonsense. Who do you like at number 5?
Cam Whitmore. That would be my pick.
I love Villanova guys. I love watch Jalen Brunson. I love Villanova guys that come in. I know that some people might have a little Sadiq Bey, like I don't know. No, okay. I like Nova.
Let's start there. Let's do the Sadiq Bey thing. Cam Whitmore, way better athlete than Sadiq Bey. Not even close, Anthony. Way better. I don't have the numbers pulled up, but I've looked him up. He was better finishing at the rim as a young, and I know people don't always like to do the age thing, a young freshman than Sadiq was as an older sophomore. And Cam Whitmore has better potential on the defensive end. This kid came in as a young freshman. He was injured. Villanova's a mess this season. He still showed all the flashes you want to see. This kid, let me tell you this, Sam Bassini, who's very smart, very well respected.
Love Sam.
Sam is incredible. He, on a recent podcast, said that he may see a higher ceiling from Cam Whitmore than Brandon Miller. I don't necessarily completely agree with that, but if that's even being mentioned, that tells you the type of player the Pistons could get. And then here's the thing with the Thompson twins. I don't want to say lots of red flags, lots of question marks, lots of uncertainty because of where they played. Again, elite athletes with insane ceiling. So, again, the room for error is smaller. Weaver's got to find the right one of that crew and a few other players. But there's a player there that can really fit into this team and keep the organization. I guess some would say maybe it's not moving in a positive direction, but hopefully start moving in a positive direction.
So if Cam Whitmore goes in front of one of the Thompson brothers, and if you're out on either of them, then I would immediately just trust your word. I haven't seen them play. I haven't watched nearly enough of them in order to have a concrete, constructive opinion that I'll stand behind. But I am a little bit of a goofball, and I will search the internet and scour it for Wembanyama. Like everybody else, I'm not interested because I'm going to speak it from my mouth. It's going to go to God's ears, and that's what's going to happen. But now we have to prepare for what's next. Okay, if Cam Whitmore isn't there, guy by the name of Jarris Walker out of Houston, who listed as a power forward, 6'7", 233, front court player. Is that, like Cam Whitmore, more of that small forward? Does Jarris Walker have any potential small forward kind of wing defender in him, or is he more traditional power forward?
Okay, so I want to go. There's lots of questions about the Thompson twins. I would still take them in. So my personal Pistons big board right now is Cam and then a min. So if Cam went 4 to the Rockets, I would take a min at 5. And then I would be looking at probably Jarris Walker, who I do think is more of a 4, but there's some real versatility. There's especially defensively. I don't love him on the wing offensively. I don't know that I completely buy the shot yet, but he is a good passer. He moves well, does a lot of different things. But just a tough, hard-playing dude with some offensive upside and some real versatility defensively, some real switchability. Not quite as rough around the edges offensively as Isaiah Stewart. A couple other names. Taylor Hendricks is a guy, not a huge upside. Obviously, Asar Thompson. Those are kind of the guys you're looking at in this range now.
Oh, boy. All right, so then when we look at this range, we look outside. If Wemby is top tier, and then you have Brandon Miller and Scoot Henderson there, maybe at like tier 2. We've got Whitmore, the Thompson twins, maybe Jarris Walker in tier 3. What happens if the board really gets messy? Then what do they do?
So another name is Anthony Black as well, who's probably the highest basketball feel guy in the entire class. Shooting, like, here's where it's a little bit concerning. None of those guys, other than Taylor Hendricks, and I buy Cam Whitmore's shot, but I guess you could make an argument he's not a proven shooter. Like, there's some questions around the shooting ability of the Thompson twins. They're also older. They're 20 years old, Anthony, playing against essentially high school competition. Anthony Black has questions around his jump shot. Hendricks is a guy that can really shoot it. So here's where why I feel somewhat comfortable. Wemby was in a tier of his own for me. Then I had Scoot and probably Brandon Miller in the same tier. My next tier, which would be tier 3, was Amin and Cam Whitmore. And then I had the rest of these guys that we've mentioned. So with them not being able to fall lower than 5, I felt somewhat okay with. I didn't want it to happen. I didn't think it was going to happen, but I still think there's a real potential for a good player at number 5.
So what would you say, looking at the Pistons roster the way that it's constructed today, right? I think that Duren should be the starting 5 no matter what. Nobody can talk me off that like the athleticism, the willingness to pass, the I don't need the ball to be effective. He'll be a better challenger at the rim. Paul George said he is a bleepity bleep to try to block out. He's strong as a bull, strong like bull, as they say in the old country. I love that. I love Jalen Duren. I need more of that. I need a guy who's committed to the team and isn't worried about his own individual statistics, so I love him for that. I think that Cade at point guard will be fine when he comes back from his injury. I love James Edwards' article about how involved he was with the team. That was like a little carrot of hope there. I'm all in on Jaden Ivey. There's no questions there. Supreme athlete. He could play the 2 next to Cade. I think Cade opens up a lot more for him next year than what we saw with him this year. Bojan is our one professional shooter that we have on the team. The only guy that's what he's paid to do is shoot the ball. So what is the biggest need then? Because at the 4, is it James Wiseman who's more of a 5? Is it Marvin Bagley? Can you have Bagley and Duren? I mean, if I'm Marvin Bagley, if I'm coaching the Pistons, Bagley, I need you working 15 to 23 feet, and I need you to shoot the absolute hell out of the ball for the next, 3 months going into next season. That's where we need you to be. We need you to be able to stretch the floor. We need you to commit to, defending on that side of the basketball, but we need you to be able to shoot it as well as use your athleticism. And I think there's still a fit for him. I don't know why so many people have punted on Marvin Bagley.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I'm way more confident right now as it stands today in Marvin Bagley than James Wiseman, especially at the 4. I'm still holding out judgment on that trade overall, and I think Saddiq Bey is what he is. I think he's a role player off the bench, and there's value in that. I don't hate the trade overall. Like, I'm just not sure James Wiseman is ever going to be the player that he was projected to be and all of those things. I just didn't see it. I liked a little bit more from what we saw from Bagley in terms of playing the 4. So this is where this pick really comes into play, Anthony, is if you take Jarris Walker, right? Well, I think your 4 spot is locked up. You got Jarris Walker, and then I think you continue with the Isaiah Stewart experiment at the 4. And then you can still give him some 5 minutes in small ball lineups, and then you have Duren, Wiseman, and Bagley to play the 5. So then you really want to go in strong on the wing position, either in free agency with $35 to $40 million in cap space to play with Bojan, behind Bojan, whatever. If you draft Cam Whitmore, well, now maybe you play Bojan at some 4. Maybe Bojan comes off the bench. Maybe he starts, but Whitmore gets a ton of minutes. And then you're looking for a 4-man. I'm not saying it has to be this guy, but someone like Grant Williams or somebody like that. You know who makes a lot of sense on this roster? Jeremy Grant. But how much are some of these guys going to cost? And I think that's what it comes down to is I don't know what the move in free agency is because I don't love a lot of the names.
Thank you. Everybody's like, oh, free agency right around the corner. I'm like, yo, look at the market that we have. Draymond Green, I don't think leaves Golden State, and a lot of people have talked about bringing him home. I don't know. I don't think his game translates to what Detroit is trying to do. So that, to me, is out. Westbrook, out. Harden, out. Middleton, at this point, too old. It was great when we had him, but he just wasn't that player. Kristaps, come on now. Like, what are you, nuts? D'Angelo Russell, he'll be back in L.A. I don't have any doubt about that. Love Nikola Vucevic, but he's got bird rights in Chicago, so okay. Like, I don't see a name on this list outside of the guy that you named, Jeremy Grant. Would he be willing to come back for a rerun? but accept a role that's a little bit different than when we had him. We needed him to be the primary scorer. Now we don't need you to do that. We need you to be a veteran leader. If that works for him, then that works for me.
Exactly.
If the price is right.
Exactly. So that's the thing. If he signed with Detroit, I would be ecstatic about it because he would know walking in, I'm the third fiddle at best. When he here's what's interesting. Like, and people have to understand, when he signed with Detroit, he was the man, Anthony. He was going to be the man, and then
all we had.
They traded. And then they didn't trade for Cade. They drafted Cade, and things changed, and all of that. And then he moved on. So if he came back, he'd know what he was going to walk into. So I do think he would fit really well there. And here's the thing. Here's what's really interesting. Portland landed at number 3. There's a real world where Scoot Henderson falls to 3. What's Dame going to do? Are they going to trade that pick? Are they going to trade Dame and say, you know what? We'll build around Scoot Henderson and Shaedon Sharpe. Well, does Jeremy Grant want to go back to Portland for that? Or would he rather move on somewhere else? There's only so many teams with cap space. And, so it just there's some different things that could shake out here. What about Portland? Here's another thing that we have to discuss over the next few weeks is, what about trading this pick? Maybe you could trade up. Maybe you want to get, if you want to get back, you're not going to get to 1. There's no way you get to 1. But maybe you could trade up. Maybe Portland wants some veterans, and you trade up to 3. Would you trade 5 straight up for OG Anunoby? That's a guy that got brought up on our live stream. Would you just trade up? Would you trade out of 5? Who knows what's going on in Toronto? They don't got a coach either. They're all over the place. Disappointing season. Would they want to trade OG? Is there a guy? There's always guys coming on the market. Not that 5's super attractive, but maybe somebody falls in love with the Thompson twins. That's the interesting thing. There's some names of guys who teams could fall in love with because Amin Thompson is an elite top 0.1% athlete in the NBA day one, and he can pass. And there's defensive upside. So there could be people that fall in love with that. Maybe you can get a package that with something and get a real player.
Damian Lillard to the New York Knicks. They get Julius Randle in return. They might get an R.J. Barrett. It might work out for everybody. I don't know, just throwing dirt at the wall at this point.
Sure.
His name, Bryce Simon. Find him on Twitter at Motor City Hoops. Find him with Amari Sankofa, the Pistons Pulse. Hey, stay tuned to the Twitter as well. I heard there's a big article coming soon. Is this true?
Yes, there is, Anthony. It's. Let me say this. I write for Draft Digest. It's the most excited article, content creation. It's the most excited thing I've ever done. Like, I am giddy about getting this out to people. It has nothing to do with me. It's all about the story and who it's about. It's an incredible story. I'm so fortunate that I got it. It's something I haven't ever done, but I'm juiced. And so it should be coming out next week. And I know I'm boosting it, but I'm super excited about it.
No, so. If you're excited about it, we're excited about it. We're going to retweet the hell out of it, Bryce, because you're our guy.
I appreciate it.
As always, brother, thank you so much for the time, my man. We greatly appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Have a great day.